Welcome back to another exciting episode of Life's Trials. I'm your host, Danny, and I'd like to take a moment to welcome our amazing listeners on YouTube and our podcast platforms. Whether you're tuning in during your morning commute, while you're out exercising, or simply relaxing at home, we're thrilled to have you with us. Today, we're diving deep into the intricacies of life's toughest moments. But before we get started, I want to encourage everyone, especially our English learners, to really engage with this conversation. There might be some tough vocab, but don't worry. I encourage you to jot down any new words, phrases, or expressions you hear throughout the episode. Who knows? You might learn something that helps you through your own life challenges. So, without further ado, let's welcome our guests today. We have the dynamic duo, Allison and James, who have generously agreed to share some of their life experiences with us. Welcome, Allison and James.
Thank you for having us, Danny. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Danny. Looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Alright, let's jump right in. Life can sometimes feel like a series of unfortunate events. I'd love for both of you to share one of the worst moments you've experienced in your life. Allison, why don't you kick things off?
Alright, I guess I'll go first. One of the worst moments for me was when I lost my father. He passed away unexpectedly due to a heart attack. I was only 23 at the time. It felt like my entire world shattered. I was supposed to graduate, get a job, and make him proud, but suddenly, everything changed.
That sounds incredibly tough, Allison. How did you cope with such a significant loss?
Coping was a journey. There were days when I just couldn't get out of bed. I started writing in a journal. Writing helped me express my feelings and process my grief. I also leaned on my friends. They were my rock during that time.
I can relate to that. Grief can be isolating. When I went through my worst moment, I felt incredibly alone at first.
So what was that experience for you, James?
For me, it was when I was let go from my job. I had dedicated 5 years to that company, and when the layoffs hit, I thought I was safe. But I wasn't. One moment, I was in a meeting discussing future projects, and the next, they were handing me a severance package.
Wow, that's rough. Losing a job can feel like losing a part of yourself.
Exactly. I didn't just lose a paycheck. I lost my sense of purpose. It was hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel for a while.
Those experiences sound really challenging. It's important to recognize how such events can shape you. Do you think you've changed as people because of what you went through?
Absolutely. Losing my father taught me not to take time for granted. I try to live life fully now because you never know what tomorrow holds. His passing has also made me more compassionate. I understand now that everyone has their own battles.
I feel that too. Losing my job forced me to reassess my priorities. For a long while, I tied my identity to my career, but I realized that it's just one aspect of who I am. I started exploring other passions like writing and painting, which I had completely neglected.
It's fascinating how adversity can reveal strengths and insights we didn't know we had. What strategies did you both employ to navigate through those dark times?
I surrounded myself with supportive people. I reached out to friends and family, and I spent more time doing things that made me happy, whether it was hiking or simply watching my favorite shows. I also learned to seek professional help when I needed it. There's no shame in that.
I did something similar. I tried to stay proactive in my job search, but I also allowed myself to grieve. I would take long walks, meditate, and believe it or not, watch motivational videos on YouTube. It sounds cliché, but it helped shift my mindset.
Well, that's a great tip for our listeners. Sometimes, it can help to surround ourselves with positivity and inspiration. But let's not sugarcoat it, there are tough days. What do you do when you find yourself feeling overwhelmed again?
That's a tough one. I have days where I feel like I'm taking one step forward and 2 steps back. On those days, I often retreat into my comfort zone. I'll watch nostalgic movies that remind me of my dad, or I'll bake his favorite cookies. It's a way to honor his memory while also allowing me to feel what I need to feel.
For me, it's about reminding myself that it's okay to have those feelings. I talk to friends who went through similar situations. We share our feelings and experiences, and sometimes it's just comforting to know you're not alone. I also try to implement small routines, like exercising or reading, that can bring a semblance of stability.
It's incredible that you both have found ways to cope and grow through your challenges. Let's talk about hope. How do you find hope on the harder days?
I think it's important to have dreams to look forward to. I recently started planning a trip to honor my father's memory. It's something he always wanted to do with me. Creating those goals reignites that sense of hope within me.
That's beautiful. For me, hope often comes from celebrating the small victories. I try to reflect on the positives, even if they seem minute. Completing a task, applying for a job, or even just waking up on a day when I didn't feel great. Those are the little things that keep hope alive.
That's a fantastic perspective, James. Celebrating small victories can really shift our mindset. Now, as we begin to wrap up our conversation, do you have any advice for those who are listening and may be going through their own tough times?
Don't be afraid to reach out. There's strength in vulnerability. It's important to talk about what you're feeling, and chances are, someone has had a similar experience.
Yes, and remember that healing is not linear. It's okay to have good days and bad days. Accepting that is crucial to navigating the rough patches.
Well said, both of you. And remember, dear listeners, life's trials can serve as our greatest teachers if we allow them to. Thank you, Allison and James, for sharing your stories today. You both have inspired not just me, but countless listeners as well.
Thank you for having us, Danny.
Yeah, this was therapeutic in its own way. Thanks, everyone.
And to our subscribers, I hope you took something valuable from today's episode, whether it's new vocabulary or insight into handling life's challenges. Remember, you're not alone in your struggles. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep shining.